Welcome, my name is Father John Bear. I come from England. I've been teaching at St Vladimir Seminary for the last 25 years. I served as Dean there for 10 years. And I've been working on the early church for the last 30 years or so. One of the most striking statements I've ever found in any of the early church writings is in a letter from St Ignatius of Antioch. He's being taken from Antioch to Rome by foot to be martyred for his martyrdom in Rome. And along the way, he meets various Christians, he writes letters to their communities, and then he sends a letter to Rome before he gets there. And in this letter, he says, he urges the Roman Christians that whatever they do, they shouldn't interfere with his coming martyrdom. They shouldn't bribe the judges, they shouldn't try and talk him out of it. And then he says to them, "Birth pangs are upon me. Suffer me, my brethren," suffer in the sense of let it be. "Suffer me, my brethren, hinder me not from living. Do not wish me to die. I'm about to come to the light. When I will have arrived there, I will be a human being." They are really striking words. Birth pangs upon him. He's not yet born. Hinder me not from living by trying to keep me alive. So he's not yet born, he's not yet living. When I will have arrived there, I will become a human being. He's not yet born, he's not yet living, he's not yet human. All the things that we think about ourselves are completely turned upside down in just one sentence that he writes like that. And remember, he's writing while walking from Antioch to Rome to be martyred. He's not sitting in a big library with great big tomes around him. It's simply coming straight out of his pen on the road in that way. So what on earth does it mean that he's not yet born, he's not yet living, and he's not yet a human being? Well, I think the first two ones can be answered quite simply, and then I'll give you an indication of the third one, and then in the work that will be coming out in the future, we are going to take this into a much, much greater depth and explore the whole of Christianity and the whole of ourselves in the light of Christ as it opens up in this way. But think about it, not yet born, not yet living. We think, of course, that we are already living, but surely to be born is to be born into life. So the question is, are we living? Think about Dostoevsky's novel, The Possessed. There's a character in there called Kirillov, and he, at one point in the novel, protests, "Nobody asked me if I wanted to be born." Think about it. We had no choice. We think we've got freedom because we can buy this kind of chocolate or this kind of coffee and spend our money or vote one way or another way. We think we've got choice. But in fact, we actually have no choice. We've been thrown into existence. We've been thrown into existence without any choice on our part. Our existence is necessary. It's a necessity for us. And moreover, we've been thrown into an existence in which whatever we do, we're going to die. We can eat more healthily and extend our life by a couple of days, a couple of months, whatever it might be. We can try and protect ourselves. We can try and immune ourselves against death. But the only thing that's absolutely guaranteed, you're going to die. So, no choice about it, thrown into existence, an existence in which whatever you do, you're going to die. We're as good as dead from the first breath we take. Necessity and mortality. That characterizes our existence as we come into this world. Well, if we're in necessity and mortality, then, as Ignatius would put it, we're not yet born into life. To be born into life is actually to do something more. We'll explore that in the future lectures or future talks and discussions that will come up. But the third one, becoming a human being. To be born into life and finally he will be a human being. What on earth does that mean? Well, I think what it actually goes back to is the Gospel of John, where in the Gospel of John, which is quite different from the other Gospels, and we're going to explore all of that as well. In the Gospel of John, when Christ is on the cross, he says, "It is finished." Tetelestai. It doesn't simply mean it's finished, it's come to an end. It means it's finished. It's been brought to perfection. It's completed. The work is now finally done in all its completion. And John has told us from the beginning of his gospel, the first verse, "in the beginning." Well, that echoes back to Genesis, where it also starts in the beginning. So John is telling us that he's playing on Genesis as he's writing his gospel. So if John is playing off Genesis in this way, and Christ on the cross says, "It is finished," then we should look back to Genesis to see what might be finished. So just go for 1 minute back to the beginning of Genesis, to the opening chapter. God speaks everything into existence. Let there be, let there be, let there be. Let there be light, let there be a firmament, let the waters be gathered together, let the land produce plants, all of this. Let there be. He speaks everything into existence with the word alone. It is, it's good, it's done, next day, let it be, all the way through. 6 days of creation. After that, he does something completely different. We always skip over it, or we just pick on one part of it and don't really hear the dynamism of it. After saying, let there be, let there be, let there be, he changes and he says, let us make. It's, technically speaking, it's in a subjunctive rather than an imperative. It's not, let there be a human being, we're done. No, it's let us make a human being. God has spoken everything else into existence as a scenery upon the stage. It's a backdrop for the work he's going to do. And now the work that he's going to do is to make a human being. It's a project. It's the only thing which is actually said to be God's purpose, God's plan, God's resolve, his project. And it's not done with an imperative, let there be a human being. It's done with a subjunctive, let us make a human being. That is what is not complete until Christ is on the cross in the Gospel of John and is given away by Pilate, not unconsciously, unwittingly, because just before Christ is on the cross in the Gospel of John, Pilate says, behold the human being, idou or anthropos, eke homo. It's finished. Christ's body is placed in a tomb. God rests. His work is now complete. So to be a human being is therefore to follow Christ, like Ignatius does. He says to the Romans, let me follow the passion of my God. When I will have arrived there, I too will be a human being. So to be a human being is to actually live by laying down your life in love for your neighbor. And just think about that. We start off in necessity and mortality. No choice about it. Whatever we do, we will die. What we're invited by Christ to do is to use that mortality. We're going to die anyway. To use that mortality and turn it inside out and now make it a birth into life, a life which cannot be touched by death because we've entered into it through death. So we are the ones who have to voluntarily take up the cross, follow Christ, not live for myself, but live for my neighbor, in all the different ways we can spell that out. And only in that way do we come to be a human being. And just one further thought before we close, which is that for everything else, God says, let it be, let it be, let it be, let it be. When he says, let us make a human being, we're the ones who've got to say, let it be. We're the ones who fulfill God's project by ourselves voluntarily taking up the cross, laying down our life in love for our neighbor. So we're the ones that God is addressing when he says, let us make a human being. So we're going to be exploring that in so many different dimensions over the coming videos. And I hope you'll join me and hear more about what is to come. Thank you.